Hi everyone and welcome to the Pathway CTM webinar. We will be starting in a couple of minutes. I know that we've just kind of sent out that reminder to you all to join, but thanks for joining us today. We'll be kicking off in a minute or so, but you're in the right place and bear with us just for a minute and then we'll kick off. In the meantime, if there is anyone who wants to kind of pop in the chat box anything particularly they're interested or want to get out of the session. We've already had a hello from Francis, and I think that it shows a lot when you kind of, the employers on the line will remember the names of those students who are the first people to kind of pop their name in there. So hi Cody, that's great to see you kind of engaging already. We are just going to give it kind of one more minute because I can see people trickling through now. So before we start, if that's okay, but you're in the right place. Hi Fabian, that's really good to see another person in there saying hello. So great to have you on. I think I recognise your name from one of our skills days last week. So that's great to see you on the line today. Hi Charlie, don't worry at all about being late. We're not kicking off for a minute or so because we know that reason. Hi Mia, good to see you on here. So we'll just wait a minute or so and then we'll be kicking off. Hi Ben. Yes, in this session you will be on mute. I'll talk about those practicalities in two seconds when we kind of kick off and explain about how you can engage with us today. But that's a great question, which I'll touch on in a second. Fabian, great question, which I'll add into the introduction. Right, so I know that some other students are going to be joining us, but I do want to kind of bear in mind the time and kick off the session for those of you who've been on here for a few minutes with us already. Firstly, most importantly, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm always so impressed by the fact that, particularly now, this is slightly earlier than some of our usual sessions, that you are here after school logging on to learn a little bit more about opportunities and things that are relevant for your future. So I know that we might have a couple of parents on the line, but the majority students. So really, we're always so impressed with you kind of taking the initiative to make the most of the fact that we're here to help support you with equipping yourself for those next steps. So really well done for joining us and thank you. My name's Ellie. I think a couple of you might know who I am from various sessions that we've run at Pathway CTM. So yeah, I work with Pathway CTM and I'm going to be here throughout the whole session today. So if you have any questions or any concerns or anything like that, then I'm on hand. We are going to be handing over today to the specialist. Don't worry, it's not going to be me talking the whole way through the session, but I am here to kind of help support you through it and help keep an eye on those different areas in which you can interact. So like I said, it's great to see so many people kind of engaging already, saying hello, giving us a bit of feedback on the chat box. So the ways you can engage with us today through this Zoom is, hi Mohammed, is through that chat box where, you know, Ben, Mia, Fabian, Mohammed are kind of talking to us now and saying hi. That's one area you can kind of get involved and you can make any comments throughout the session. Feel free to do so. I'll have my eye on that. But also in the Q&A box, if you do have any direct questions, there's going to be a separate section at the end of the session today to focus on any questions you might have. So pop them in there if you have direct questions. Like Fabian, if you want to make sure that your question you just popped in the chat box isn't missed, then make sure you type that up in the Q&A box and I can keep my eye on it for the session at the end of the session to get to it. Well done again for joining us. Make sure you ask as many questions as possible. Pop anything in the chat box. I'm here if you need anything. People will be kind of arriving and trickling in, but that's absolutely fine. well done, and you're in the right place to kind of hear a little bit more. So enough from me, I guess, and can continue to write in the chat box and say hello and why you're here and what you want to get out of it. But ultimately, I want to introduce you now to our kind of special guests and the experts at EY to introduce themselves and kick off, really, if that's okay.
Thanks, Ellie. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lucy, and I work in the student recruitment team at EY. And we're also joined by Will, who is a current apprentice in our assurance team in our Cambridge office. Will, I'll let you say hi as well.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so as Lucy said, I'm Will. I'm in the Cambridge office, and I'm now into my 4th year of the apprentice programme.
Thanks, Will. So yeah, we're going to be talking to you today about EY essentially, but just a bit of background before I start. So my name's Lucy, of course, and I work in the student attraction team. So I look after our apprenticeships and our work experience for our Cambridge office. I've been at EY just over a year. I joined in September last year. So half of it, granted, has been kind of at home, but it's been a really, really great year, and I'm really excited to talk to you all about the really great opportunities that we have for you guys. So today, I'm just going to cover kind of 4 key things. So a little bit about who we are and what we do. Hopefully, because you're on today, you kind of have heard of EY before, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of our different teams and how they work together, and kind of what we do on a day-to-day basis. Our programs and opportunities, so then how that's relevant for you. What kind of programs can we offer you as school students and school leavers? And then a bit about the application process. If you are interested in applying, it would be really useful, I think, for me to go through the processes. You know, lots of different organisations have different processes, and ours slightly different to the standard application process. So I'm going to go through that with you. And then, of course, time for any questions. And as Ellie said, you know, please do use the chat box and let us know what you want out of the session today. And we can really tailor it to whatever you whatever you think would be useful to know. So please do give feedback throughout, and of course ask any questions, and we can come to them at the end. So I guess I'll just kick off then with kind of who we are and what we do. So we are EY, are one of the big 4 professional services firms. So essentially what this means is that we provide services to other companies. So I'll talk a little bit in more detail about these services, but generally, kind of speaking, they're financial, business, and technology services. So we are kind of experts, and we go and help our clients with some of the services that they may need to keep their businesses running. So it's all about kind of our clients having trust in us and giving them the right advice and telling them kind of what they need to do to make their business run efficiently and smoothly. So a bit about EY as kind of a whole, and then we'll kind of drill down and make it a bit more relevant to the UK and also kind of Cambridge. EY is a super global firm. We have over 700 offices globally, which is pretty insane when you think about it. And 21 of these offices are in the UK alone. But of course, today we'll be talking about our lovely Cambridge office. We're in 150 countries, and whenever I go on holiday, I always try and spot the EY office in whatever city I'm in. There's usually one. And also, as you can imagine, we have loads and loads of staff working for us. There's over 300,000 EY employees globally, which is quite a lot. I always say you're never kind of more than 2 feet away from an EY employee. So as you can imagine, you know, really global firm, and that means there's loads of opportunities for school leavers, and you know, there's loads of opportunities to join us. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about those opportunities today. So, as I mentioned, we have 700 offices globally, but in the UK, we've got 21. So all the way kind of up in the top in like Aberdeen and Inverness, and then if you kind of look through going down all the way down to kind of like Bristol, Southampton. So lots and lots of opportunities across the UK. But today we'll be talking about our lovely Cambridge office, and Will can tell you a little bit more about that a bit later on. But just so kind of you're aware, because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the different service lines that we offer. And we offer these in kind of most of our offices, but in our Cambridge office, we actually specialise in kind of 1 or 2 service areas, which I'm going to talk to you now. So our service lines. So I mentioned earlier, so we provide services to other companies, right? So what are these services? So we offer kind of 4 key main services, which are assurance, consulting, strategy and transactions, and tax. And then we also have kind of student programs in our actuarial and technology, and they're kind of interwoven, especially technology is definitely kind of interwoven into the 4 key service lines. So first of all, assurance. I always kind of describe it as kind of, if someone's kind of is thinking about accounting, that's essentially what assurance is, and in particular kind of the audit process as well. And Will talk to you in a lot more detail than I can about assurance in a minute. But essentially, EY's kind of bread and butter is our assurance practice. So we were traditionally an accounting firm. So this is one of our largest service lines, and Cambridge really do kind of specialise in assurance solutions. We also have consulting. So this is when, you know, you would work for EY, but go and help clients kind of help solve problems and make their business run more efficiently. We have strategy and transactions, and this is quite a broad kind of service line, but essentially it's when a business has or is about to go through a big change. Perhaps they want to buy or merge with another company, or maybe sell parts of their company, or perhaps, you know, sadly at the moment there are quite a lot of companies in financial difficulties, so we would help them. And when they're, you know, give them advice whether they need to go into liquidation or administration. So kind of lots of very exciting kind of fast-paced kind of deals happening in strategy and transactions. And then finally we have tax, which we also offer in the Cambridge office, but not for our apprenticeships. And this is essentially what it says on the tin. We provide tax advice and solutions for companies and also high net worth individuals. So individuals with lots of money, and help them pay the right amount of tax, especially if they've got kind of businesses in different locations. We'll make sure that they're paying the right amount of tax per location, per country. So that's kind of a quick overview of the 4 key service lines that we offer. And as I mentioned before, assurance is our kind of bread and butter of EY, but also it's what we offer in our Cambridge office. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why EY, and then I'm going to hand over to Will, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more detail about actually what assurance is, what he does day to day, and then of course what an apprenticeship in assurance you know, means for you as well. So why EY? In terms of what we can offer you from an apprenticeship or work experience as well, super flexible. I mean, even before the crazy world of coronavirus, you know, our staff can work from home. We're all set up for work from home before coronavirus, so we kind of adapted really quickly to that. Training and development is a really big one, you know, as part of the apprenticeship, which we'll talk about in a minute. You know, you're studying for a professional qualification, so you're getting lots of training on the job and really developing your skills, but there's also loads of scope to get involved in extra kind of learning and development. You know, this year we're offering all of our staff, which is new for this year actually, the opportunity to do a tech MBA, which is really exciting, and we invest millions and millions of pounds a year on like training and developing our people. So just something to kind of think about there. But the professional qualification that you would study for as part of the apprenticeship is probably the kind of main and key thing that I would point out as, you know, why would you choose like EY to join after school? So our programs and opportunities then. We have for school students, for those in year 12 and 13, we've got opportunities for you. So if you're in year 12 or S5 if you're in Scotland, but I'm not sure anyone is on the call today, we have a work experience program which will happen in the summer between year 12 and year 13. So if you are in year 12 at the moment, this is a perfect program for you to apply for. It's a 1-week work experience program, and you just kind of get a week-long taste of what it's like to be an apprentice. You'll get lots of training, you'll get to listen to talks from our senior leaders, you'll get to meet our people in the Cambridge office. Hopefully we'll be back in by summer next year, and it's just a really nice kind of work experience, and it's also paid, which is great. And it's just to kind of give you an idea of what it would be like to join EY, and give you also an idea of how EY works and the different service lines as well. So perfect for anyone that's in year 12. Also, for those or anyone that's in year 13 or that has already finished school, we have our business apprenticeship in assurance in our Cambridge office. And this is a kind of 4.5 to 5 year program. You get it's a level 7 apprenticeship, which is the equivalent of a master's degree. So really, you know, the highest level of apprenticeship that you can get. As I mentioned before, you will study for a professional qualification, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about kind of what that means as part of the apprenticeship as well. And on the apprenticeship, you'll get lots of kind of support, loads of training, you get a counsellor, you get a buddy, and you know, just really great support. So you're not kind of thrown in the deep end and left alone. You know, you really are kind of guided through. So they're the two options in terms of opportunities for year 12s and year 13s. So I'm going to hand over to Will now just to talk a little bit in more detail about assurance, you know, what it really means. I've done a very brief overview, probably not very well, so I'm sure Will can talk in more detail about that.
Thanks, Lucy. And so, yeah, as Lucy said, assurance, which as one of the Q&A questions has asked, that, yeah, assurance is a overarching title for auditing. So auditing would fall under that. I know there's kind of descriptions on the screen. I would kind of describe it as almost like a checking process. So EY would kind of check and test the financial statements that a business or a government authority or charity or anyone that kind of puts out financial statements at the end of the year, we would go in and kind of give our like third party, like independent tick to say, yes, actually what they have put in here is kind of true and fair. And I think why that is so important, if you kind of think a bit broader, if you look at the government side, for example, a lot of their money is kind of tax money that definitely parents will be paying, and I'm sure you guys will be soon enough. So checking that they're kind of spending that correctly and appropriately is a big reason for the need for insurance. And then on the business side of things, obviously lots of these businesses, you can buy and sell shares depending on how well they're performing. So kind of the third party assurance is almost a regulator kind of tick saying, yeah, this is true, and therefore kind of the value of that company is reflected fairly. So they can't just be kind of putting out lots of false financial information. So I would kind of, that's how I would best describe audit and then assurance. Can I change the slides, Lucy? Are they done there?
I'm not sure if you can change them, but let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So the assurance apprenticeship, which obviously briefly said about that 4.5 year program, is made up of the kind of the learning side in that professional qualification, which again the Q&A coming through about leading to an ACA or ACCA qualification. Yeah, you will end up with the ACA qualification, and so that is the qualification administered by the ICAW. So at the end of your 4.5 years, not only will you have, you know, 4.5 years of great experience with EY, you'll have that chartered accountant qualification with that level 7 kind of master level apprenticeship, as is put on that kind of bottom bullet point there. So I hope that answers that question that has come through as well. And kind of just jumping back up that slide, obviously that testing and checks is what I'd alluded to was audit previously. In terms of what are we doing as an assurance apprentice, everyone asks about kind of the typical day, and it's obviously very easy to say there isn't a typical day, which I would say is definitely a truthful response. But to highlight something a bit better, I kind of went back through my work calendar back towards like February time, when it was a bit more of a normal working environment, to see kind of what I'd done in the week. And I'd been out in Norwich for 4 days working on East of England ambulance service, so performing kind of those testing checks and analysis that they have described there. And then one day I was working from home, sorry, kind of on the Friday, so that flexibility was already there. alongside the work time I had that week. I had a call with kind of my year group of people in the office to discuss any kind of group issues or group points that we wanted to kind of raise to management as part of that support network. We do that once every 2 or 3 months, depending on how needed it is. I played five-a-side football with work on the Monday night, it seemed. So busy around kind of the working side of it. I think that middle point of substantial periods of time traveling, obviously not at the minute. I've been sat in my same study for like 7 months, but previous to that, I would say I was probably having 1 day a week at home, but 4 days a week would have been somewhere in the east of England. So the study for the qualifications is a massive part of the program, because obviously that is a big end goal of the program, to become qualified. So in the what you study towards is that ACA, and then level 7. I think it's called Accounting and Taxation Business Apprentice is like the level 7 bit, as well as ACA, which is just accredited chartered accountant. Where you will study, so normally you're in a classroom, either in Cambridge or London, depending on the exams you're doing, which if it's Cambridge, it's really nice because it is like a 5-minute walk around the corner from the office. So then often we would kind of go back to the office as a group, and kind of do any homeworky bits that we were given from college. But currently at the minute, it's at home, like most things. The study leave box before going on to exams, the study leave you get given for every single exam, and the amount of study leave time it differs per exam, and it's not kind of EY deciding how many days you get. You get the days that ICAEW think or know that you should need, and therefore are given to progress through the study course, kind of in time to then sit the exams, which are on that top right hand side. So there's 15 ACA exams, and then there's one final case study for that level 7 apprenticeship. Support from the team, so you get great support from kind of different angles. So there's a pure apprentice team who are based in London, like a central team that look after an office worth of apprentices each, and you get again a call with them once a month, once every 2 months. But then kind of a closer to home support, I would actually say that your closest support are kind of your friends that are sitting the exams at the same time as you. But if not, you've got other colleagues in the office who have all been through kind of what you're going through at the time. There's loads of support there to reach out and get. The work-life balance is, I'd say it's a very flexible balance, in the sense of you wouldn't just be like, my working hours are 9 till 5 every day, and then outside of that, not working. I think the kind of your minimum hours work out at 7.5 hours a day, which actually, when you break that down, is not too bad at all. But say on one night a week you want to leave early to go out with, go and play a team sport or attend a club or something, and therefore if you leave early that day, you can just work the extra couple of hours the day after. That's perfectly okay and is encouraged and supported, as long as you're kind of letting people know and don't just suddenly disappear mid-afternoon with kind of no explanation, I guess. Next slide, please, Lucy. So life as an apprentice kind of a bit continues. Maybe explain a couple of terms in here as well. So you've got a buddy and a counsellor, which you get allocated as you join, and then you kind of keep them all the way through your journey. Not necessarily the same people, you can change them if you wish. I would say a buddy is normally someone who kind of joined the year before you. So if you guys join next September, it would have been someone who's joined this September. And I would say they're a very informal relationship. Kind of any minor problems, just drop them a message, and I'm sure they'll know the answer. And then your counsellor, it's a bit more formal. They're normally a manager, and they would be more involved in kind of like your goal setting within EY, and what you want to achieve each quarter, and then each year, like how your feedback's going. They would coordinate feedback from people about your performance. Working hours are kind of alluded to already. Social life at EY. So there is definitely social life, especially within Cambridge, because it is such a because it's nowhere near as huge as like London. You do know everyone that's there with you as well. So there's kind of officially organised socials, for example, always a Christmas dinner, like a formal black tie event, and then each summer our social committee put on again an official summer event, which last year we went to Newmarket horse racing, and they put on other little things in amongst that. But again, like I said, I would say most of our socialising is kind of informal stuff that we just arrange to go out on a Friday, Saturday, as as well as colleagues. You do become friends with a lot of people that you work with. Like I said, so yeah, feeds into kind of the working in teams, and with clients. So you're straight away thrown, or thrown maybe not the right word, but you're straight away put into a client environment. So it's not like you have to wait for however many weeks before you can go out, but there'll always be kind of a team around you. I'd say some of our bigger clients from Cambridge, kind of Lotus car manufacturer, Green King Brewery, who obviously own a lot of pubs as well. And then I'd say our biggest that is maybe not heard of is called News Corporation, and they own like the New York Times. That's American clients. That's quite a big one as well for us. Time in the office versus client site, I would say 90% on client site normally. Obviously 0% anywhere at the minute. But yeah, so if that was kind of a question, that if you joined Cambridge, do you need to live in Cambridge? I would say no. I live about an hour and a half drive from Cambridge, but that's perfectly fine. And in terms of responsibility, there's not a lot in terms of like the client team structure. Obviously, there's people above you to guide you through. That probably after 2 years, you might start being asked to maybe lead a team on a client. Yeah, it kind of grows with time and responsibility, I would say. So these are just some photos of the office, which were taken pre-COVID, but the only difference is there's just loads of COVID warning signs and hand sanitizer around now. So on the left is the front desk as you walk in, and the one on the right are some small meeting rooms, which we often used to study in because they sit 2 or 3 people. So these ones are all down one side of our bottom floor, ground floor, which, as you can see, there's kind of on the left, there's like that white wall, which is actually panels that can be then taken away as they are on the right hand side. So either make 3 small rooms or 1 huge meeting room, depending on how big an event we want. These are now upstairs, so the office is just 2 floors. Downstairs is all the meeting rooms, and then upstairs is just 1 big open space, loads of desks and kind of these cool little grey booths. There is 1 meeting room up there. This is the kind of kitchen area where you can sit and eat. Eat lunch. There's fridges, vending machine. It's just a different angle of all the desks upstairs.
Cool. Thanks so much, Will. That's really great kind of overview of assurance and also life as an apprentice. If you've got any questions at all for Will in terms of when he started, maybe what he does now, responsibilities, and things like that, please do put them in the chat and we can come to them at the end. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about our application process and kind of give you maybe some hints and tips as well. If you were, thinking about putting in an application, it's really useful to know ahead of time how to prepare, how to be successful, but also kind of know what the process is. So a bit about our process then. So we recruit based on strengths. So it's slightly different to a lot of other companies that ask for CVs and cover letters. We don't ask for either of those things. We don't kind of screen out based on academics alone. So we're not going to be looking at your CV and looking for experience, because we understand you're still at school. How are you supposed to have that? So the way that we recruit is on strengths. So what does this mean? It means that you have to do kind of a series of online stages to kind of get through some online assessments that we ask you to do. And these assessments will kind of test different strengths that we look for in candidates. So on the screen here, you can see all of the strengths that we look for. Of course, you don't have to be, you don't have to excel in every single one. If if you have a couple that you really, that you would identify as key strengths of your own, then that's fantastic. So I'm not going to go through all of them because I think some of them are quite self-explanatory, like being a team player and resilient, but I think there's a kind of few key ones to note, especially if you're going to go into the assurance apprenticeship. I think there's some that some of the key skills that I think are quite important. So, and also Will can tell me whether he thinks this is true or not. Maybe you don't need these skills, but I think the first one that I would pick out is being number savvy. So, I mean, I'm not sure how often Will does work with numbers. I'm sure probably quite a bit, but as part of the application process, you are asked to do a numerical reasoning test. So this is like a 15 to 20 minute numerical timed test, essentially. So you're scored not only on the accuracy of your answers, but also the speed in which you answer them as well. So it's one of those things that you kind of have to practice just to kind of get into the kind of the groove and kind of just understand the types of questions that you're going to be asked, because of course you are timed. So if you're kind of expecting the types of questions that are going to come up, percentages and multiplication, fractions maybe, so just kind of understand the types of questions that are going to come up. That would be really useful in terms of being successful. I'd say the majority of people that fall out the process and that aren't successful do fall out at the kind of initial kind of stages, which is this online numerical reasoning test. So if you are interested in applying, I would definitely recommend doing some practice ones before the real one. I'd say kind of anywhere between 5 and 10 practices would be ideal. I can also, in the chat box a bit later on, I can paste in some really great resources that you can use to practice, not only the numerical reasoning test, but also lots of other kind of psychometric tests as well, like situational judgment and ranking exercises and things like that. So I'd say I'd kind of identify maybe that, and I think that goes kind of hand in hand with kind of being analytical as well. Being in the know is quite important. Commercial awareness. It is something that will be tested on as part of the application process. So kind of having an understanding of, how EY and how the service lines kind of fit in together, and kind of knowing what's going on around you in the market as well is quite important, as you will be asked about this. Of course, the kind of usual ones like being a team player, being a strong communicator are really important as well. Strong communicators, not just about kind of written communication, but verbal communication, as Will said, you'll be working with different clients, so you might need to kind of adapt the way that you communicate with certain, on certain projects or certain clients. So that's quite an important one, but it's also one that you can pick up. So if you're not, if you perhaps would identify some of these as not your strongest, that's absolutely fine. We're not asking you to be perfect at all of them. It's just giving you an idea of the kind of strengths that we look at in the application process. And what's really nice as well as part of the application process, and I'll show you the stages now, is you get a detailed kind of feedback report after each stage, and it will tell you which strengths you did really well at and perhaps some development areas as well. So for our apprenticeships then, and it's slightly different for the work experience, but I will tell you a bit about that in a minute. So for the apprenticeship, for the assurance apprenticeship, it's a 5-stage process, and I'll go through each stage with you. I know it sounds like quite a lot of stages, but actually when you break it down, it's really not too bad. So the first stage is simply just kind of creating your account and the application form. So it's choosing the location. As I mentioned, we have lots of different offices, so make sure you choose Cambridge, and then of course the program that you're wanting to apply for. Putting in a little bit about where you study, where you went to school, and also what A-levels you study as well. So it's kind of like the information that would be on a CV, but only some of it, and that's in the application form. So the second stage then is the online assessment stage, and this is where the numerical reasoning test that I mentioned will be in. Again, it kind of 15-minute test timed, and it will ask you questions. They'll start easy and they'll get a bit harder. So again, I will let you know some good resources to practice, but that is where you'll be asked to do that. As part of this stage as well, there are a couple of kind of ranking exercises. So it's a bit like a situational judgment that it will ask you, okay, this is a situation. It will give you lots of different scenarios, and you kind of have to rank them as to which one you'd perhaps do first, and then which one you're less likely to do. Again, you can definitely practice this, but I think it's one of those things that you don't really need to practice. It's just be honest with your answers. And if you're a good fit for EY, then you should be successful on that assessment. So if you're successful after the second stage, you'll be asked to do a telephone interview. Now, this is a 20 to 30 minute interview on the phone, and they'll kind of just ask you about why you've chosen to apply for EY and why the program and the kind of service line that you've applied for. So I'd say kind of best thing to practice here is just really practice answers to why have you chosen to work for EY, and also make sure you've kind of read up about if you're applying for assurance, make sure you know fundamentals about what we do in assurance, and just so you can confidently talk about that. We're not asking you to be an expert, but just have an understanding of, the assurance service line, and why also you want to do an apprenticeship. Why is it that, you want to do a school leaver program and not kind of pursue another avenue? And then if you're successful from that, you'll be invited to an EY experience day. Now, this is, typically it would be face-to-face. You'd come into one of our offices and there'd be 100, 150 people joining you on the day. But at the moment, for obvious reasons, it's virtual. But it's exactly the same as it would be. So it's kind of, it would be similar to, an assessment centre, but we call it our experience day because, we're not interviewing you there. You're kind of doing a few exercises with an assessor, kind of one-to-one, and then there's a group exercise as well. And it will be on Microsoft Teams. I don't know if anybody's used that before, but it's very similar to Zoom. Everyone just pops their camera on and you just interact in that way like you would face-to-face as well. And there is also in the morning of that day, so it's a half day, so it's not kind of whole day event, it's half day, and in the morning you'll do a kind of 10-minute kind of numerical reasoning test, but just a verification of the one that you would have done previously. So I think it's like 3 or 4 questions, so nothing to worry about. And then if you pass the experience day, you'll be invited to a final interview. Now, this will be with a senior manager or a partner from the team that you've applied for. So it's a really great opportunity for you to ask any questions about, the apprenticeship or about assurance or anything you want to know about, the Cambridge office or EY as a whole. It's a really good opportunity for you to talk to someone senior, and they can be really honest with you. you know, as much as, you know, we want you to impress us, you know, we want to impress you as well. So really my best tip for this would be come prepared with some questions that you know, that you want to ask, and just enjoy it as well. So the final interview then, this will be, as I said, with a senior manager or partner, and you might be asked to prepare a short presentation on a topic of your choice, and then there'll be some kind of question and answer section afterwards, and then they'll probably talk to you more kind of generally about you know, why you've applied and your motivations as well. So that's the stages for the application for the apprenticeships. Of course, happy to take any questions on that if you have any questions. As I mentioned, it's slightly different for the work experience. So if you're in year 12 and wanting to apply for the work experience, it's just the first 3 stages. So it's the application form, where you create your account and choose the program and the location, the assessment. So exactly the same as the apprenticeship, it will be the numerical reasoning test and the kind of ranking situational. And then just the telephone interview is the final stage there. And the idea of the Business Academy is that after, you know, the week long, if you're really interested and you've enjoyed yourself, we will fast track you for an apprenticeship for the following year. So you go back to school for your final year, for year 13, or, you know, final year of college, and then you already have an offer to join with us in September when you finish school after the summer. So it's really nice kind of weight off your mind if you are wanting to do a school leaver program. You already have the offer there in your final year of school, so less pressure on having to get an offer in your final year, which is really nice. And of course, the Business Academy is paid as well. So I often get asked, what academics do I need to apply? So as I mentioned, we don't screen out solely based on academics. We don't ask for CVs. We do ask, you know, you tell us what A levels you're studying and perhaps what your predicted grades are or what you're on track for in terms of UCAS points. But it doesn't mean if you've got a lower UCAS point score than our kind of benchmark, it doesn't mean that you can't still apply. So the minimum grades that you need to apply for the apprenticeship or the Business Academy is a minimum of C in GCSE maths and English language. So if you've got a minimum of C in both of those, you can apply. And then in terms of your A-level grades, if you have 112 UCAS points or equivalent, you can apply. Or if you have under 112 UCAS points, you can still apply. It just means that you have to score slightly higher on the assessments, the online assessments, to bring up that score as an overall score at the end. So if you maybe aren't on track for 112 UCAS points, it's absolutely fine. Still definitely apply. Just as I said, you need to score slightly higher. So I hope that's helpful in terms of putting in perspective in terms of academics. So that's all I really wanted to talk about today. And I just wanted to leave the last kind of 15-10 minutes to any questions. Ellie, I don't know if there's been any in the chat box or anything that we haven't covered that, you know, anyone was hoping we were going to today.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a few questions in. Helpfully, actually, Will answered a couple of the first questions, and you know, when you first went through that, so thanks, Will. I know you had an eye on the Q&A box there. But before moving on to the Q&A questions that have come in, I just want to ask a couple that have been popped in the chat box, make sure we don't miss them. So you've touched upon that just now, actually, Lucy, but Fabian's asked, will this meeting also give us work experience opportunities? So for that work experience opportunities, it is those ones you just mentioned, isn't it? There's no, in terms of shorter term experience or things like that, is there anything you'd recommend in terms of getting some work experience? Would that be helpful towards applications and things?
So in terms of what we offer, it is just the Business Academy, the 1 week work experience, and then the School Leaver, so the apprenticeship programs. We do kind of like half day like events at the moment, which are virtual, which are really good as well. For example, on Thursday, I'm trying to think what day it is today, not tomorrow, Thursday, we are doing a Spotlight on Schools. So it's like a 3-hour kind of half day in the afternoon, and we're talking all about EY and the different service lines and lots of about everything that we do in terms of school leaver opportunities. So that could be a good thing, and also looks good, on LinkedIn or on your CV if you've joined that. I can definitely share the link to sign up for that. It's not too late. We're still taking registrations for that for Thursday afternoon.
Amazing.
And in terms of, sorry, was there a second part of the question there?
If it was, I guess the question was, if it isn't unable to get kind of work experience with you, or bearing that in mind, is that something, other types of work experience, is that something you'd kind of take into consideration you're thinking about when people are applying to the apprenticeship scheme? What other work experience they've had?
So because we don't ask for CVs, we don't really look at people's experience, but I think it's never going to be a bad thing if you have experience, because it's something that you can talk about in interviews. As I mentioned, the third stage is a telephone interview, and then for the apprenticeships you'll have a final interview. So it's always good to have experience, but if someone doesn't have it, it doesn't mean they're at a disadvantage, because obviously in the initial stages we wouldn't see that anyway.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it also kind of ties into Celine, your question, which follows on from Vivian's in the chat box, which is, is this something that can go on our LinkedIn profiles? Absolutely. Pop today's session on your LinkedIn profile. We can absolutely show you how to do that as well. So we have lots of sessions on our side at Pathway CTM in terms of how to update your LinkedIn profile. Pop it on your LinkedIn, but as kind of Lucy mentioned, it's not necessarily based on experience and those things that you would have on your CV or LinkedIn in terms of this application process, but things to talk about. For example, literally the answer that Lucy just gave to the last question, when you get to that video interview, you could mention that you were on this session on a Tuesday evening and taking kind of the initiative to do that. So I think that would always impress. So good question though. And then Hamza, that final question in the chat box before I move on to the Q&A. You're on your gap year. Can you still apply for the apprenticeship programme? And I would say absolutely yes, but Lucy, is that the case?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So as long as you've finished school, you've got your A-levels and your GCSEs, you're more than welcome to apply. We have people at university who apply and they realize they don't actually want to go to university anymore, so they leave uni and they come and join us on apprenticeship. So as long as you finish school, you can apply if you're 35, 45, as long as you've got those qualifications and you're willing to want to join an apprenticeship, definitely do apply.
Great. Yeah, no, and Hamza, we can help support you with that too. So great question. Will, one for you. I know that we mentioned it earlier in the session, actually, that this is a question which is asked in the interview process, but and you've mentioned a lot of answers I guess are relevant, but why EY, I guess, for you? What was that main reason? What was your answer at the time?
So at the time, the EY's big kind of overview goal ambition was called Vision 2020. Obviously that's been updated since we've reached 2020, but wherever you search with EY, that was what came up, and I do recommend going and looking on EY's website to see how that's been updated. But coming back to the question from that point, I obviously saw that ambition and kind of the subheadings of that overall kind of strapline for EY, how they wanted to grow the business, how they wanted their people to kind of grow with them and within the business, and things like that really appealed to me. And then I know when I got into the application stages, I kind of applied for all of the Big Four, and actually I felt that going into the offices and interacting with kind of the people at EY actually seemed to be kind of very similar individuals to myself, both kind of their work side of life and chatting to them about other things they did. And so yeah, probably then the people side of it as well, I think, are a big plus, and they're very like-minded people, which is definitely helped by the new strengths testing. So that answers that.
Yeah, a great answer as well in terms of thinking about when these students are deliberating over which, how to make that decision-making process. I think that's really helpful to think about how you approached it. And someone's asked specifically, Will, what A-levels did you do before starting at the apprenticeship?
Maths, history and geography. But yeah, I think whilst just on the A-level question and going back to Lucy's point of the grades, I know that I got like a whole grade lower on every single A-level, and there was no trouble with coming into EY. So again, it doesn't matter what you studied or kind of final grades, I guess.
I'd jump in there and say, you don't have to, even though Will said he studied maths, you really don't need to have studied economics or maths or business or anything related to apply. You can study whatever you like, as long as you enjoy what you study, then that's the main thing. And yeah, if you don't get your predicted grades, even though we do give you an offer based on that a conditional offer based on the kind of the grades that you've said that you've got, there's always room for kind of negotiation on that. So don't put too much pressure on yourself.
I guess an extension related to that is another question that's come in, which is a really great question. So with the online assessments, Lucy, one for you, I think, is there extra time available for students with disabilities, or are those things taken into consideration?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as you flag it to us, that's something we can definitely help you with. The earlier you flag it, the more support we can give you. You don't even have to tell us what the disability is, or you don't need to give evidence. All we need to know is what adjustments you need, and we'll make it happen for you.
Great. No, that's great to hear. And if anyone has those specific questions for us, we can support you with those kind of how to ask those questions and let you know. So don't worry, Pathway here to kind of help you with that as well. Quite a specific question, and I don't know if you would know this yet in terms of looking to next year, but those experience days which were part of the process for the application, do you know when they'll be now? Or okay.
Yeah. So we run, I'd say, like 2 or 3 a week in peak season. So how it used to work is obviously they'd be in different locations, but now because they're virtual, you can join any of them. The way it works is that you book yourself onto a date that works for you. So it's not like you're just assigned or allocated a date. You really do choose one that will work for you in terms of, date, time. So yeah, we're running them, and we've got them plotted out, I think, until February. So there's definitely lots of dates to choose from. So if you are kind of getting to that stage, that's fantastic.
Brilliant. That's good to bear in mind, everyone, that they're ongoing. A direct question from Francis here for you, Will. What responsibilities have you been given so far? Could you give us an example or something to bring that to life?
So probably I'm now at the stage where I would be leading kind of an EY client team. So on one of our clients, I would be the go-to person, both from kind of my juniors on the EY side and then the client on their side. So I'm probably at the point now where I'm kind of coordinating an audit. Which is really good fun and keeps very busy. And it's something slightly different because I guess I'm no longer, I am still obviously doing specific client work and the testing side of it, but I'm probably doing less of that now, maybe more reviewing what one of my new joiners has done, I guess.
That's great. It gives an idea of which leads on to a question that's actually been asked twice now, which is around progression and development. Is that kind of the focus, and what does that look like internally and things?
So on your 4.5 years, your progression is kind of mandated. Each year you get you progress with a kind of attached pay rise with that, which is always very nice. That's this time of year, so they're always nice with that one. So you would get to your point at the end of the 4.5 years, you'd be a qualified senior, they're referred to within EY, and your next promotional point is an assistant manager. Just kind of looking at the questions like the location elements, you can most definitely move offices, foreign secondments if that's something that interests you, or you could move out of audit. I think the big ones at the minute coming through are kind of environmental related, as you might putting a new big team together with that. Or you can stay in Cambridge, which is the plan, I think.
That's good, and it shows that you are really enjoying where you are, which is really great to hear for the students today, because it's motivating for them. So that's nice to hear. And in terms of applications, and if they are actually open now, we've been asked a couple of times, Lucy, that's the case, isn't it?
Yes, sorry, I should have stated that at the beginning. Yes, we opened our applications in August, so we've been open for a while now. We do recruit on a rolling basis, which means that we're doing interviews and we're giving out offers already. So we will close the programs when they are full. So if you are thinking of putting an application in, I would definitely recommend, doing it sooner rather than later. I know obviously there's lots going on with mocks, I assume, and exams and coursework, but you can really push it at your own pace. As I said, you book yourself onto the assessment center and you do the online assessments at your own pace, apart from the timed one. Yeah, so I would say, sooner rather than later would be optimal.
Great, and that gives an idea around that, so specifically for the year 13s on the line then, so for that apprenticeship role. And then we've been asked a question around that work experience that you mentioned with the academy.
Yes.
Do we know what dates that will be for next year?
Yes, so it'll be mid-July. This year, unfortunately, it had to be virtual, which was a real shame, but we're really hoping in 2021 we will be back in the office and we can do it in person. But we still went ahead with it. I think a lot of companies unfortunately had to cancel their work experience programs and their internships, but we still went ahead. So it will definitely go ahead. In what format will be TBD, I think.
Great. And what we can do is, Fabian, you've just asked that question around the work experience as well, and when we can send the link. What we'll do is after today, we'll send you through the sign up for the session that Lucy talked about, which you can get involved the half day, the work experience and that apprenticeship application, just so everyone has all of those. So don't worry, Fabian, we'll make sure to get you that and we can help you through that process. That's no problem at all. So we've been asked again, so from Eleanor, not 100% sure in terms of the career and which way to go down, but would it be worth applying to the work experience anyway? Do you think go ahead and do it?
Yeah, I think so. I think as long as you're in year 12, definitely apply. They will ask you in the telephone interview your motivations for applying, and they are looking for people that want to do an apprenticeship. But I think, as long as you have an interest in doing an apprenticeship, that's okay. So yeah, definitely still put in an application.
Great. And yeah, no, I'd say exactly the same thing, Eleanor, go for it and then see how you get on. Bear that in mind. With the different kind of offices and things like that, then we've been asked, can you apply for many offices to do different things? Could you do that at the same time?
Yeah, good question. Unfortunately, you can only apply for one program and one office at any one time. If you aren't successful for any reason, you can apply again after 6 months. But you can only, unfortunately, you have to pick one location and one program. Yeah, at one time.
Great, but that's a good thing to bear in mind when you're going through that kind of decision-making process of who to apply for. Then do think about that. So Ollie's just asked, what degree apprenticeship courses lead the most towards accounting? So if you, both of those, I guess, that we've spoken about today do take that route, but how did you decide, I guess, Will, on assurance, and that was your way to into the sector?
So yeah, assurance is kind of the main one. Professionally, that leads to that chartered kind of status and into that accountancy profession. In terms of comparing that to a degree, I guess I was set on becoming a chartered accountant eventually, and kind of weighed up going and spending however many tens of thousands on a uni course and then having to come and do like 3 years at kind of a firm like EY anyway. So doing it this way, I've saved myself about 1.5 years in terms of time, loads of debt, and been kind of paid since the start. So yeah, it made real sense to me. Yeah, I definitely recommend it if it interests you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you made, Will. I think if it is something that you do want to become a chartered accountant, later in the line, I think going to university, I'm sure you have a great time, but you do accrue now lots of debt. And if you definitely know that that's what you want to do after university anyway, I think it definitely is a great option, because as Will said, you don't accrue the debt, you start earning from day one. So actually, when all your friends are going to be in debt, you'll have money, and you can go and visit them, well, when Corona's over. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can go visit uni, have fun with your friends, but also be earning and be able to afford things that you want. But also, as Will said, save time. So an apprenticeship, yes, is 4.5 years, and a graduate program would be 3, but you're still doing it in shorter amount of space of time. So you'll be working with people on the graduate program that are older than you, but you're more senior than them. So that is quite fun. And also, I think something that's really important to note, an apprentice starting day one and a graduate starting day one pretty much does the same role. You have to go to the same college classes, you have to do the same exams. You just get longer to do the exams on the apprenticeship.
Yeah, well, that's some really good reasons. We've been asked the question about what's the best part of working at EY, and there's definitely elements of what you've both mentioned there of good incentives to take that route, but not only that, but working at EY. Is there anything else, I guess, just conscious of time, with that last question, I think it's a nice one to end on that you'd want to add?
I would add kind of the size of the firm is a really amazing part of it. I know some of you already have kind of alluded to the fact, obviously, there's offices all over the country, all over the world, different service lines. I mean, even in my time so far, I think I've been into Ireland for work, so not too far away yet. I'm hoping that with COVID over, be in Holland next year for some work. I'd say that is one thing, and I think the other thing is all of the stuff alongside your kind of day-to-day job that is available. Like Lucy mentioned, the tech MBA is a very new thing, and just kind of highlights EY's commitment to you as an individual, even though they're fully aware that you're not necessarily going to be here all the while until you retire. I think it's things like that, and the other opportunities that are there. Some of the ones that I did, well, kind of relevant to this, I was assessing at some of these assessment days last year. Again, something a bit different from your day-to-day job, and yeah, that's good fun as well. So yeah, I would say kind of the size of the firm and the other opportunities alongside it.
Absolutely. Well, I know that we've got lots of questions in the chat box, but I think all of the themes that those questions have kind of gone, we've covered across. And like I say, we will be following up with every single one of you that joined today. So that's in the form of an email follow-up with those different links. So I know a few people have asked that, and yes, we do. We will be following up with that, but also we will give you a call just to make sure that we can help support you through those applications, whether it's a work experience or for the apprenticeship scheme. What I'm also going to do now is pop in the chat box a quick survey. It honestly takes 2 seconds, so just do it. And there are about 10 questions in there, and it won't keep you very long. And that's just essentially asking feedback from today and letting us know, which of those different routes might be best for you, for us to help support you through that. We also will, throughout his kind of explanation, and Lucy touched on it, is that we actually work as well with ICAEW, helping support young people into various different roles in the sector. And we have an event coming up with them tomorrow, so we'll be definitely talking about EY and those different kind of possibilities there. So I'm going to pop that in the chat box too. So if anyone does want to sign up to that event, then do go ahead and do so, and it will really help you with the EY application, bearing that in mind. So those are in the chat box now for anyone who can kind of just jump on and fill out a survey for us. That would be brilliant. And another thing to bear in mind is I know that throughout this session we've kind of mentioned a few times the strengths-based questioning and the approach that EY take to the application process. And what we are offering with Pathway CTM is we actually partner with a strengths-based company who support young people in understanding what their strengths are and how to really realise what are your strengths and how you can talk about them. So we will offer a free kind of strengths profile through Pathway CTM to any of the students that want it. So do just request that in response in the survey that we follow up with you tomorrow. So thank you so much, Lucy and Will. It's been brilliant, and we will let you know. And we've recorded today so we can follow up with the students and make sure that nothing's missed.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ellie, and thanks, Will, as well, for joining. And yeah, thank you for listening to us on this nice Tuesday evening. I hope everyone has a lovely evening ahead.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, everyone, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.